I think it's really fascinating that in the Old Testament God gives these 10 commandments on how we should live our lives, and so it's in two sets. The first 4 are about our relationship with God, the second 6 are about our relationship with each other, and the very first of that second set is you should honour your parents. It's like, so that comes before don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't lie. Honour your parents is first, and you go, there must be something really important about that, something to the fabric of human life and human society, and you've got to ask kind of why is that so important to God? And I guess for me it's not just a theoretical thing, because that's been my experience too. Like when I was a young adult once, I went to this kind of Christian meeting, and this overseas speaker who had never met me before kind of prayed for me, and God showed him these things, and he said, you need to forgive your dad because you've judged him about these 4 things. And they were all true, but kind of that God thought that was something I needed to deal with. And I mean, you need to understand, there were some good reasons for my feelings, because like my dad had been in and out of jail when I was a kid, and then had disappeared, taken off, hadn't seen him for years. You know, he'd done a lot of damage to our family, and yet from God's point of view, it was important for my growth and life and sanity that somehow I got a right heart attitude towards my father, in that case in particular. So it kind of makes me wonder, why does God think it's so important? You know, what's the kind of rationale behind it? I think it's got something to do with kind of the nature of human life, that kind of in our kind of sinfulness we tend to kind of get that I'm independent, I'm my own person, and somehow the thing of honouring parents kind of acknowledges that actually fundamentally I'm only here because of some other people, that my whole existence is derived from others. And there's kind of a certain humility in acknowledging, you know, whatever these people and their difficulties and challenges, actually I need to kind of acknowledge that, yeah, kind of they were here before me, I'm only here because of them, and there's an appropriate way of relating to them that is quite, for God, quite foundational to human life. So the question is kind of, in New Zealand, do people just take their parents for granted? And I think largely the answer is yes, and I think that's part of our Western society. And so like a few years ago, we went and lived for quite a while in an Asian slum, and noticed this massive difference from how kids in New Zealand just treated adults generally, and particularly parents, to in a non-Western Asian world where there was just all of this respect, and they were referred to with tenderness and were looked after. And you know, so for us as a family, I mean, it's not for everyone, but one result of that is when we came back to New Zealand, we made a decision to bring my mother to come and live with us in our family. And that was that kind of acknowledgement of kind of honouring her, of looking after her in her old age, and that was an appropriate thing to do. What does it mean to honour your parents when they're not Christians? Well, I guess that's why I told the story about my dad. Honour sometimes doesn't mean trust, even. Certainly doesn't mean agree with. But I think it just means you're not being a smart ass or smart aleck and mocking. It's that kind of position of acknowledging, you know, Dad, I don't agree with what you're saying, or I know you don't agree with me, but just, I guess, the attitude of respect and respectful difference at times. I think you need to forgive parents. I think a lot of people get bitter and resentful, and it's part of growing up and God's freedom in your lives, that you know that you actually have a freedom inside, that you have forgiven, and that it's worth putting time to do all that you can to have the right relationship. I mean, it takes 2 people. You can't make it right, but you can know that you've done what's right. But as I said, I think there's a parallel between that sense of almost honouring parents as, yes, my life is derived from them, versus even much more, ultimately acknowledging my Creator. And again, my life ultimately is derived from God. So I think that's why actually honouring is so important, because it kind of positions me in a place of, I guess, in a sense, humility that goes, my life is a gift from God and from my parents. And I think there's a gratitude and a celebration and a joy in that.